faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY, OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jordan the Great King and CJ the Viking Notch.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio, KXCY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show if you are trying to check us out on social media, or Border Battle OSU on Twitter, Twitter.com/Border Battle OSU. Chris, switching us over there on the old KXCY.
Yeah.
Get us rolling over there. We're going to start off with the NFL draft. We'll come back to the draft talk a little bit later in the show, seeing the draft is tomorrow night. Really excited about that, Chris. I don't know about you. After this first segment here, we'll get an Orange update, talk about some big news going on in Oklahoma State, including the golf team in final round action today, weather permitting, of course. It's pouring out here in Stillwater. We'll see if the weather is able to hold off in Tulsa. And then the NBA playoffs, we will talk a little bit more about that, obviously, because had a couple teams advance and a couple other series all but over, in my opinion. So, Chris, we'll start off with the NFL draft unless you had any other news.
No, I was going to add is about 12 minutes ago, Oklahoma State men's golf posted they actually just teed off.
So there you go.
So they're still going.
There you go. Well, I'd imagine you try to get as much as you can in and try to finish this tournament out. 18 holes left for them, and I believe 5 strokes back, or four or 5 strokes. We'll get into that in the second segment. We're going to start off with some NFL draft talk. We talked quite a bit about it on Sunday with Kieran, and then what got aired on Monday. This is obviously Wednesday now. We're the day before the draft. If you're a GM, you got everything nailed down. You have your big board ready to roll. You know, what's left to do other than get this thing rolling? And the nice thing about it is we still have a few hours to talk about it. So, Chris, you look at the top 10 here. Give me a couple teams here that jump out to you could be some interesting, intriguing situations.
Well, you have them highlighted. At least to me, it's Denver and Indianapolis. They're in the best spots because they can either draft, someone that if they want to. I guess Indianapolis doesn't need a quarterback, but if Denver wants someone to maybe next in line after Case Keenum if he's not the option. But they also everything is in their favor because they can trade down. They can because someone that needs a quarterback, let's say at pick 5, like the Bills need a future quarterback. They'll probably give a king's ransom to Denver and Indianapolis, who's ever wants less, to bump up if they need to, or, hopefully bump up. So to me, those are the two teams that are in the best scenarios of they can really have a number of options.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the best scenario. It's the most interesting scenario for sure in the top 10 to see what especially Indianapolis is going to do. I think Denver ends up staying there. Again, we don't know what Buffalo is going to try to pony up for this. And also 4 is another interesting one. Everyone just thinks Cleveland's going to make that pick. While I think it's smart and it would really be smart for them to take that draft with that pick, I think there's also a chance that they could also trade out of that pick to a team like Buffalo. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. But again, like you said, Denver, Indy, those are two kind of interesting spots, especially Indy, in my opinion. So, it'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. And obviously, the rest of the top 10 shakes out with one NFC North team, the Chicago Bears. We know about them. What do you think about the Bears as far as what they should do? A lot of people thought Calvin Ridley early on in the draft process, but they fixed their wide receiver problem. So where would you go if you're Chicago?
I almost would still consider potentially another wide receiver. I think with the backcourt of Tariq Cohen and I can't think of the other guy off top. Jordan Howard. I think they're good there. Obviously with Trubisky, he's still learning. So you don't want to jump off of that, considering you picked him, second last year.
You're not going
to end that.
Absolutely not. Quarterback.
But then either look up to shore up your O-line or work on the defensive end, because at the same time you can't be so good on the offense and be terrible on defense, because that's not going to work.
Yeah, you can't draft wide receiver here, in my opinion. I think that's irresponsible after you spend as much money as you did. You overpaid Trey Burton. You probably overpaid Allen Robinson. You overpaid Taylor Gabriel. So now it'd be I don't think there's a way you can go and draft wide receiver here. I don't think you should draft offense at all. Scratch offense off the board. There's going to be plenty of defensive players here in this situation that you can take. Denzel Ward, athletic cornerback out of Ohio State. You look at Derwin James. I don't know if he'll necessarily be there. It sounds like he's probably going to go in the top 6 or 7 picks. But Roquan Smith, linebacker out of Georgia. A whole bunch of defensive players that are going to be on the board. And it's pretty much pick which one fits your scheme. Pick which one is going to be the most athletic for the next 10, 15 years. So, again, Chicago, another interesting spot. I do want to talk about Green Bay for a second, because Green Bay they're at 14, and there's been a lot of speculation on what they will do with that pick. And should they go cornerback? Should they go defensive end, edge rusher, like a Marcus Davenport has been mocked to them a lot? Or do they go linebacker, like a Leighton Vander Esch type of player, or kind of a hybrid player like him? I think the Packers should go cornerback. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be... I believe in Mike Pettine's defense as far as getting pressure on the quarterback. So I don't know if you necessarily need a special player as far as a pass rusher goes. I think you need a special player in the secondary. This team has lacked secondary play in the past half a decade now, ever since they let some of their key players start to leave. Devon House, Tramon Williams, the list goes on and on. This team's got to start replacing him now, and we'll see if they're able to do that.
Yeah, and I know too. I was kind of looking at the Vikings. Granted they're at, I believe it was like 30 or 32, somewhere in that range.
32 is for the Super Bowl.
Okay, so then it's 30. Then it was 30. I couldn't remember of where exactly I'd seen them, but I was looking up too right now. They're looking at drafting. I was on NFL.com and they were looking at drafting a linebacker out of Boise State,
Leighton Vander Esch.
Yep. But I don't know. To me, I almost think and I don't think he'll be on the board, but of like Josh Jackson from Iowa, cornerback. The thing is, especially for the Vikings, you can never be too deep. I mean, any team, you can never be too deep at cornerback.
I've seen the Vikings draft a cornerback a lot in mock drafts simply because Trey Wayne sucks.
Yeah, well,
for a first-round draft pick, Trey Wayne sucks.
He does, but and they also include like Mackenzie Alexander, and I think Alexander's even worse. Granted, he's not a first-round pick. I get that, but
who's playing more snaps?
Right, yeah, Trey Wayne is for sure. Right, no, and I totally get that. I kind of want to change things a little bit. I want to ask you: do you believe in this whole Baker Mayfield's getting picked by the Browns first?
Yes, I do. I believe that. No, I'm not believing that they're going to take him. I believe that he's in the conversation for sure. And if he's not, then the Browns aren't doing their job. With the number 1 overall pick, you have to look at every player on the board. Plain and simple. You're not doing your job unless you're evaluating every player on the board. If you're for sure going quarterback, then knock off every other player. But you're still going to have to evaluate the Bradley Chubbs and the Saquon Barkleys of the world and the Minkah Fitzpatricks, those kind of players, Denzel Ward. You have the 4th pick. So you still have to do your homework on those guys. But the important thing is, why would you just limit it and say, oh, what we saw from Sam Darnold for sure is the best in the class, right?
Right.
You got to be doing your homework. Now, I think it's interesting that this story comes out right now because this should be done. The Cleveland Browns should know right now, if we don't get a good trade offer, this is where we're going. So I do question kind of the timing of the story coming out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I agree, because the thing is, you can never you have to consider all options. I mean, yes, you have the number 1 pick, but you do have to think of, okay, and like you said, at this point though, the Browns can't be questioning. If they're second guessing themselves, they've put themselves in their own trouble just for the fact of, like, yes, you're gonna have a little bit of like, oh man, we're taking a chance, but that's what the draft is every year. So I mean, you have to be set in stone. I personally, I think he was in the conversation, but I think it's either going to be Josh Allen or Sam Darnold. I think it was more maybe a toss-up between those two. Baker was just kind of there as well.
Yeah, I will say this. Baker Mayfield has the personality.
And he has the size.
Playing style. He's actually small.
Right.
Well, so I don't know.
That's what I mean. Like, if he had the size. Like, if he had the size. Sorry.
Well, I'm not knocking the size against him. I think he could go number 1 overall and be a fantastic player. Like I said, I think we look back in the next decade and a half, and it's not a popular sentiment to say around here, I think he could very well easily be the best quarterback to come out of this class. I really think he could. And that's nothing against Darnold. I just think Baker Mayfield has this not give a you-know-what attitude. And quite frankly, if anyone's going to turn around the franchise of the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be someone with that attitude. And that's why people thought Johnny Manziel might be that guy. Johnny Manziel had more off-the-field issues than Baker did. Yep. There's one police video that people around here, and rightfully so, because it's a rivalry and that's what you do to your rivals, but people have hung on to it for way too long around here. It's one video, it's one instance. Other than that, the guy, if you look at on-the-field issues, yeah, there are some of those. But off the field, there really isn't any other issues with him. So some of those things that people bring up around here I think are kind of interesting and maybe a little bit not necessarily true all the time.
Real quick, one more question. I kind of got all these questions for you.
Yes, sir.
No matter the position, doesn't matter like the team, what you need. Who is the safest pick in this year's draft?
I think it's Bradley Chubb because I think Saquon Barkley is the best pick, but I don't think he's the safest pick.
Why?
I think the highest floor is Bradley Chubb. You look at a guy who is going to come out and be a solid player no matter what, I think that's Bradley Chubb. If you're looking at someone, and by the way, Bradley Chubb has a tremendous ceiling as well. He could also be a Hall of Fame type player at the end of his career. I just think he's the safest one, most developed, most ready for the NFL. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Again, later in the show, we're going to get to more NFL draft talk. Did not spend nearly enough time on that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the golf team and how they're doing over in Tulsa. That's coming up next on OSU Student Radio KXUY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXUY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, and Twitter.com/Border Battle OSU. Do our weekly, well, we do it almost every day that we're on here, Chris, a Orange update, and got some big news this week, obviously. The National Pro Fast Pitch Draft was this weekend, and there was a cowgirl selected. Vanessa Shippey taken with the 11th pick overall. That's the second round, and she's taken by the Cleveland Comets. This is obviously for the first player under Kenny Gajewski to get taken in the draft. This is obviously a big deal, and we've been saying it all year. She's the best player on Oklahoma State. Probably going to get recognized as an All-American, potentially National Player of the Year. She's in that conversation at the very least. And now she gets drafted. So people have to remember, 11th, you have just getting drafted in this draft is a big deal, much like it is to get drafted in the WNBA. There's only 24 picks in the pro softball draft. So to be in the top half of that really makes 11 look a little bit better than than it does. So I think this was good for the program. It's going to be another recruiting tool for Kenny Gajewski, who, by the way, doesn't need any more recruiting tools. He's very successful on the recruiting path since he's been here. And it's just continuing a long line of firsts for the Kenny Gajewski softball program here at Oklahoma State. What did you think when you first heard about Chippy getting picked?
Honestly, I wasn't surprised. Like,
no, and no one should be.
And no one should be. If anything, I think this, like, she was already, way up there in lore for, OSU for fast pitch for here. But I think she just cements her legacy, like, all that much more to then be drafted. Because I guess I don't know how many Cowgirls have ever been drafted at all, like, throughout the history of the fast pitch, pro fast pitch and all that. I don't know. I thought I heard the number 2, like it was 2, I think, floating around. Not quite sure on that, but no, I think this is great for her. I think it's, again, great for Gajewski. It's another, like you said, it's another tool to add to the belt that he doesn't need. But again, it's kind of adding more to his legacy of what he's done in the short amount of time that he's been here. I mean, it's one of those things, not to totally get off track, but it's something you can look at with, like, Mike Boynton, what he's done his first year. We've had some great coaches come through in their first few years and have started off successful right from the start. So for Gajewski, it's great to see. It's great for the program, and it's a great time to be a Cowgirl softball fan.
Absolutely. And again, softball in a good position here heading down the stretch. They just went down to Austin, Texas and beat Texas in 2 out of 3 games. Obviously, you hate to lose that first game, and but you get the second one, you get the third one. That's all, of course, important. So now they go South Dakota, UCLA, who is number 1 in the country right now. So UCLA, this is going to be a big couple weeks because, 1, you get a huge non-conference game against UCLA, and 2, if you sweep OU, you win the conference. Unless something changed from what I read earlier, you win the conference, and you only get one of those games at home. The way they've done this series over the last couple of years, or probably even longer than that, they give 2 home games and 1 home, 2 and 1 essentially, so that each year, because they know these are going to be sellouts at both places, it's really smart to do. Give each one, it's a source of revenue every year that you're going to get. You can count on OU being a sellout, and OU can count on OSU being a sellout every year. This year is even more special because it's going to be for the conference. And all OU has to do is roll out their number 1 overall draft pick because one of their pitchers was selected number 1 overall in the pro fast pitch draft. And hope that she's able to do her job. If you're Oklahoma State and you're able to knock her off in one of the first couple games, you're going to feel really good about potentially getting this upset, and probably one of the more historic upsets that this conference has seen. So coming down the stretch here, Chris, what do you think is key for Oklahoma State to potentially end the season better than they ever have?
I think it's just timely hitting. Again, as long as you can get good pitching on our side as well, with Sam Cakley, and then her name's just slipped past me. Logan Simonek as well. Amy Robertson. The whole
Robertson's
pitching,
probably their best pitcher.
Yeah, the whole pitching staff needs to have a great weekend as well. But the bats need to keep moving. That's the thing too. And I think it's also special too because it's Vanessa Shippey's last go around with all this. So now you're getting down to the end of the season. In a sense, we all want to see her end the season on a high note or on good terms and stuff, and so you kind of wish everything. You hope everything goes well. I do want to add too real quick.
By the way, she's not the only senior. There's other seniors here that
right, and I'm not trying to make it seem like it's all about Vanessa Shippey, but I mean you have the other seniors that have helped contribute, Maddie Holcomb, some of these other ones as well. So you want it as a whole.
There are other key seniors
right,
as well.
Yeah. I will say though too with the battle with UCLA, I think is like, this might sound bad and you may disagree with me on this, but I think yes, you would love to win against, number one UCLA. If you can take one or two, great. But I think even if you lose, if it's a close game, you should still feel good because because to me this also it's a predictor of, okay, where do you match up against the number one ranked team in the country when you're kind of been the mid 20s most of the season. So I think even if you do lose, if you only lose by like one run, two runs, you should feel good about yourself. Now, if you get smacked around, then maybe there's a cause for like a concern mentally for the players. I don't know.
OSU has to play well against UCLA. They have to, because UCLA is essentially there's very little difference in the quality of UCLA and the quality of Oklahoma. That's just the way it is. And if you can't play with UCLA, and now you're going out to LA, this is a tough road trip to make. But if you can't play with UCLA, you're not going to win the conference. And I understand this is a really tough 2-week stretch for them. But if you're going to win the conference, you're obviously then going to go to the tournament and the Big 12 tournament. You have to play well there. If you get into the NCAA tournament, which I expect this team will, you have to play well there. And you're going to have to play these kinds of teams. And you're going to have to play them back to back. So you know what? Sucks, but that's the way it goes. And you've set up a really good opportunity to gain more momentum than you've ever had going into the Big 12 tournament and then the NCAAs after that.
Yeah, and I think it'll benefit them being it's at the end of the season and not something that you face them early on. Because, again, like you said, it's basically you're facing the same two teams, within the span of two weeks. So I think it's a good kind of last wind-up to get you ready for hopefully a long postseason run.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to golf. You said golf had just teed off this morning. They're getting the final round going. It's probably going to be windy, probably going to be not so great out at the course over in Tulsa, Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa, where the Big 12 championship is. In their 3 rounds, they are now 858. So that's 18 over par, and they're tied with Texas for third. In first is Oklahoma. So here it is, this big matchup we've said about Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, this docuseries, everything about that. Here we are, 6 down going into the final day at Southern Hills for the Big 12 title. And Oklahoma's 3 in the country, you're number 1 in the country, and Iowa State I don't even think is ranked. So kind of a cool story there for Iowa State. And by the way, this is not the entire golf leaderboard right now. If you're watching on Suddenlink or YouTube, this isn't the entire golf. But, I mean, look, 38 back. Texas Tech's not even going to get back into this. So there's no reason to put the West Virginias and all those teams down there. So anyways, Oklahoma State, how big is it today to make a run and win this thing?
It's really big, considering most of the season you were winning all the tournaments you attended. Granted, the one right before this one that was actually at Carson Creek, you didn't win. But yeah, this is a big thing. Plus, you're going against in-state rival Oklahoma right now is in the lead. This is a huge hurdle for this team mentally to overcome, to not start mentally getting in your head of overthinking things. Because that's the thing with golf. As soon as you overthink, we've talked about this, as soon as you overthink things, your game's in trouble, because then you're not relying on what you know. Then you start, rethinking things.
Yeah, and by the way, Victor Hovland, sophomore, is tied for 4th place, 2 shots behind the leaders. So, I mean, he's right there as well. He could end up winning the individual title if he has a good round here. And by the way, if you remember from last week's interview with Coach Bratton that I was able to do, if you remember from that, he said Victor Hovland is going to have a long pro career whenever he decides to go pro. So this is going to be interesting. If he can lead the charge here for Oklahoma State, it's going to be huge coming down the stretch here. And we'll see if they can kind of displace Oklahoma. But I think you're right. I think you do have to play well. I don't necessarily know if this is a play well situation. I think you have to come back from 6 strokes and win this thing. Because if you're going to tell Oklahoma, give Oklahoma the confidence, which didn't need the confidence, they're the defending national champions. They don't need any extra confidence. But if you're going to give them extra confidence heading into that situation, the national championship at your home course, I'm just telling you, you're asking for trouble as far as the national championship's concerned. So it'll be interesting to see how they play the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, and add to that too, you just have to flex your muscles. Oklahoma State does. I mean, they were 1 for this tournament. Oklahoma's number 2. I mean, you just have to show that, hey, we're just because we're back a few rounds. Kind of like I think it was Jordan Spieth, at the Masters where he went on that tear, the last round of like, hey, we're OSU just because we're a few strokes back doesn't mean we're out of this. Us as a team, you don't, kind of like you don't know who you're messing with thing. You can't let your guard down. Not saying OU is definitely not, doesn't put their guard down now, but it's the fact of Oklahoma State can kind of like, okay, it's time to flex muscles. It's time to go.
No, OU knows how to win, so there will be no laying down from Oklahoma. Oklahoma State's gonna have to go win it today. So, but again, if there's ever a chance any scenario you would want them to be able to have a comeback, it would be crappy weather. That's part of it with golf. So we'll talk quick about baseball. Got a couple minutes left in this segment. Kansas you had the doubleheader in Kansas on Friday. Play them again on Sunday. You sweep them. 12-1, 4-3, 4-3, and then you beat Dallas Baptist yesterday. Gaining some momentum here. And again, you're going into OU this weekend, 1 here and then 2 in Tulsa. You got a chance here to again, here's another bedlam matchup, this time with baseball, where you're going to have a chance that at the end of the weekend you could be looking back and looking down at Oklahoma and be in sole possession of first place in the Big 12.
Yeah, and it was an interesting storyline. Last time they played Dallas Baptist, they were 8-6, and no one knew where the season was going. Now you play Dallas Baptist again. Now you're 24-14 and 1. I mean, it's amazing where the season has gotten to at this point. But yeah, it's great. Again, this is why we talked about this at the beginning of the spring. This is why the spring season for all OSU sports is so big, because everyone has the chance to potentially bring home the hardware for the regular season title as well.
Yeah, so again, give you a reminder on what it is. 12-3 Oklahoma State is in baseball. So they're currently actually the number 1 team in the conference. Texas in second, Texas Tech in third, OU at 4th place, or tied for 3rd. So again, you beat OU, you're going to put yourself in a really nice position heading down the stretch. 3 more conference series to go. All right, we're going to take a quick break. NBA playoff talk coming next. A couple teams sealed out their series, including Klay Thompson and the Warriors. That next on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
Falling into this role, I kind of like it. Just any chance I get to throw for this team, I go out there and help them out in any way possible. I love to do that for them.
Is it disappointing for this team to know that they could potentially, if given the opportunity, have success in March, but the thing is it's looking less and less like they're actually going to get there?
I mean, you're dealing with one, right now, the premier softball program in the nation in Oklahoma.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio, KXZY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand. We're taping this a little bit earlier so that we can stay out of the way of everyone else when this plays. But again, 11 to noon, that's when you're tuning in and checking us out on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand. We appreciate everyone who switched their schedule if they're listening on KXZY to listen to us a little bit earlier in the morning. If you're listening by chance on KXZY and you want to listen to us every day, do we even go live on Mondays anymore? I don't think we do on KXZY.
No, Mondays it turns to Sunday nights now.
Yeah,
at
Sunday
5.
nights, if you want to listen to us, 5 o'clock on Sunday nights or 11 o'clock our normal time on Fridays. So if you're listening on KXZY, that is the way to get in touch with us. Couple NBA series closed out last night. The Sixers end up closing out the Heat, and the Golden State Warriors end up closing out the Spurs. I don't think either of these were overly controversial or overly surprising. Any thoughts on those, or is that just kind of what we expected?
I expected the Golden State San Antonio one. I think if anything, especially with how Miami played, I think the series should have went possibly one more game. But again, that's one of those you look back like, oh, what shoulda coulda type of thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, Philly is a good team. Like, I mean, they're proving it. 2 years ago they had 10 wins. Now you're going to the second round of the playoffs. So, again, I think Philly might be the team to beat in the East this year.
By the way, Ben Simmons. People don't like this. People freak out when they first hear a comparison at the start. Ben Simmons, Magic Johnson. He's more athletic than Magic Johnson was. He'll never be the leader that Magic was. Yep. He may not have at the end, he may not have the legacy Magic did, but a guy that plays the position, because you can argue he's a point guard. Everyone's going to say, oh, he's a point forward. Guess what? If that term was around when Magic played, that's what you would have called Magic. You'd have called him a point forward. So you know what? That's the comparison I'm going to make. I'm sticking to it. Everyone hates it, but in 5 years, if Ben Simmons turns out to be great, that's what everyone's going to be saying, and I'm going to be happy that I'm the first one to say it. So, and I'm probably not the first one to say it. But again, if he was wearing gold and purple right now, that's what everyone would be saying. If he was playing in LA, switch him and Lonzo, that's exactly what everyone would be saying. So, all right, Chris, I'm going to go down the series here, and you're going to tell me, is it over or not?
Okay.
Rockets Timberwolves, is that series over?
That's over.
Why?
Because the Timberwolves they just are not set up to go. I mean, the Timberwolves are a great team, but they do not fit well against the Rockets. The Rockets have way too much firepower. We don't have enough is part of the issue. Towns is slowly getting to a roll. Wiggins just shows up when he feels like it. And Butler can't do everything. Derrick Rose has had a nice game. He's had 17 points the other day, but you give up 50 points in one quarter. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That series is over. Jazz Thunder. Jazz up 3-1. Is this series over?
It's over.
How many games do you give the Thunder? Do you give them all 7?
I might go to 6. They may win one more, but I don't know. I don't see them coming back. For people from Oklahoma right now watching that, huge fans, I'm sorry, and this is not me being biased because I'm a T-Wolves fan. I just said T-Wolves are going to get ousted too. So I don't see it, and it's a letdown.
I don't either. I don't see him coming back. Donovan, I think it got bad. Russ got taken out of his game by Ricky Rubio, in my opinion, and this series is over. Let me ask you a follow-up question here then. If Oklahoma City somehow wins tonight and wins out in Utah, comes back to the peak for Game 7, would you take the Thunder then?
I would then. I would because you're back home, your fans are riled up. This team, then it's more momentum. Westbrook, Anthony, George, the whole team's going to be fired up. So that's the thing for Utah. They have to close them out either in this game or the next game. If you get to Game 7, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there as well. I don't think Oklahoma City wins 3 straight. But if they get to that series scenario, I could potentially see it happening. So we said the Warriors and Sixers have won their series. Bucks Celtics. Is this series over? It's just 3-2. Bucks, though, in my opinion, squandered a huge chance yesterday in Boston. Boston didn't play well at all.
Yeah, they squandered, but I don't think it's over because so far all 5 games the home team has won. I don't know. It's the teams don't. Neither team plays good on the road, and they play well for the most part in front of their fans. So I don't know. I don't think. I think this is going 7.
I think it's going 7 as well. I think the Bucks would have closed it out if the Bucks won last night. The series was over.
Yeah.
I don't think Boston is going to come in and win on the road. They're just too young to do it. Giannis, you cannot have this happen. Giannis 5 for 10. Never, ever can you have that happen in a playoff series ever. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you go down to the locker room and you fire your interim coach. I don't care if you're going to have me coach game 6 and 7. You fire him. If you can't get Giannis more than 10 shots in a game, you don't deserve your job. You don't. And by the way, the Celtics shot like crap yesterday. 42% from the field, 32 from 3. 32% from 3, and you lose. Now the Celtics got to the line 32 times to the Bucks 20. That also has a lot to do with it. And there was maybe a spotty call there down the stretch. But again, I just think that's absolutely ridiculous that Giannis only shoots that many times. So again, let's keep it moving here. Wizards Raptors, that game's 2-2. I think we can both agree it's not over.
No, I think that's going to go to 7 as well. Because now the pressure's back on Toronto.
Right.
Like it's hardcore pressure.
Yeah, pressure on Drake as well because he was trash talking John Wall the entire.
Yeah.
He said he wasn't coming to Washington and he wouldn't see him again because it was going to be a sweep. He had a broom for him, and Drake just
eat your words.
He just gets himself in trouble all the time. Pacers, Cavs. Is this series over?
I don't think it's over either. I think the last series you just talked about, I think they could all go to game 7. I really do. But at the same time, when you have LeBron James on the court, I don't know. But I'm going to go with it's going to go to 7.
I'm going to say it's over because the Cavs were able to steal one back in Indy. And Indy grossly outplayed them in that game 4, and the Cavs were still able to win. And I just think it's a huge letdown if you're Indiana, because if you win that, you're going to win the series. So it's in my opinion, it's really disappointing for them. So that's the rest of the series. Whether or not they're over or not, Chris says most of them are over. Just a couple going to Game 7s. You're a big fan of the Game 7s. So
I am.
Chris, you saw something on ESPN that kind of piqued your interest.
Yeah, so there's this article that came out. It said the 4 best Kawhi Leonard trades we'd like to see. So I'm going to say the team, what the trade is. I'll go through all 4, and then I'll let you kind of give your input. So first is the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard for Brandon Ingram, straight up. That's it. Then you have the 76ers. The 76ers will get Kawhi Leonard and Brandon Paul for Dario Saric, Markelle Fultz, Jared Bayless, and the Lakers' 2018 first-round pick.
The Lakers?
Yeah.
How does the Lakers?
I think it was a
trade.
No, I think it was just a trade,
okay,
a prior
previous,
pick that they had.
right.
Yep. Okay, so that's that one. You have the Celtics. Celtics get Kawhi Leonard. Spurs will get Kyrie Irving and Boston's 2018 first-round pick plus whatever other picks gets the deal done. Is what it says. Or you have the Miami Heat. Kawhi Leonard and Patty Mills go to the Heat for Goran Dragic, Josh Richardson, Justice Winslow, and Bam Adebayo.
Obadiah, I believe his
Yeah.
name is.
Those
First
are
of all,
the
this
4.
guy needs to stop playing 2K and realize this is real life NBA best. No, there are a couple of these that I don't quite get. I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan, but if Kyrie Irving straight up for an injured Kawhi Leonard doesn't do it, if I'm Boston, I'm walking away from the table. Why would I give up a first-round pick and other picks as necessary? To me, whoever wrote this is obviously very high on Kawhi Leonard. Now, you could make the argument that Brandon Ingram maybe isn't much, but Brandon Ingram's a young talent that you can start to build around. I think it would be interesting to see him in a Spurs uniform with Greg Popovich. But I do not see how you can give up as much as some of these trades are giving up. What are your thoughts on it? Like Kyrie and a first? Are you kidding?
Yeah. No, yeah, I was reading that. Well, to me, what gets me is like the whole plus whatever other picks to get the deal done. I'm like, okay, Danny Ainge ain't gonna do that in the first place because Danny Ainge is a smart
he loves
man.
His picks.
Yeah, he'll hold on to them forever. But yeah, I don't know. Again, if you can get Kyrie for Kawhi straight up, or maybe even add in just a second round pick, not your first round, then maybe you consider it. I mean, if you could, your lineup would be a lot of 6'8" guys with Tatum and Brown and Leonard, and you have Horford and Morris off the bench potentially. I mean, yeah, your point guard may be smaller, but I mean, I don't know. It's intriguing, but at the same time, if you're the Spurs, you almost want to, stay young with the rest of your team. So maybe Brandon Ingram is a little more of a, an interesting, trade as well. Especially if they would just do if they would just do that one-on-one, then you would think for sure that the Spurs would do one-on-one with Kyrie.
Do you think? Honestly, if you were the Celtics, would you give up Kyrie for Kawhi one for one?
Maybe. I part of it though is Kawhi past this whole phase he's in? Again,
What phase?
I mean, well, okay, like part of it is this whole underline of what exactly is going on. What made Kawhi
You're talking
lose?
about Kawhi, not Kyrie.
Yeah, I'm talking about Kawhi. What made Kawhi lose faith in like the Spurs, or what happened with that relationship? Because let's be real here. At least for me, I thought it was like that relationship was a match made in heaven with Pop and everything. And then all of a sudden this year, things started going down the drain after his injury and his group of people, his guys. So, like, what has gotten into Kawhi, or what happened to make this happen? Like, to me, that's what would concern me most as a GM of, okay, are you over this whole baby stage or whatever you're doing stage? Like, I get it. You want to worry about your health. I understand that. And sometimes it's nice to not just always consult the team doctor, but also your own kind of group. But I don't know.
Who'd you rather have from a talent standpoint?
Leonard.
You'd rather have Kawhi.
He's a two-way player. He gives me defense as well. But
How much is defense going to truly win for you in the NBA? Everyone says defense wins championships. I think the NBA is not a league you look at when it comes to that.
right, yeah, the NBA is a little different. It's not like football. Football, you need defense.
Yes.
But I don't know. Partially, I mean, because he can still score. It's not like he can't, score.
No, I'm not
I mean,
saying that. What I'm saying is, how much value do you really put on defense?
right. I mean, for me, I value defense quite a bit.
Okay, then there you go.
But yeah,
That kind of explains it. I was trying to get to.
Oh, okay,
because
sorry.
I tend to think they're pretty equal, which is why I would never in my life, if I was ever a GM, trade also
yeah,
a first round draft pick.
right.
You know what I mean? It just, to me, that seems a little bit irresponsible. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, yeah. It's a little bit. If you're not willing to just go one for one, then it's not worth it.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Some good NBA talk there. We're gonna get some more NFL draft talk. That's tomorrow. Talk about a little bit of these Oklahoma State players and where they might go. Next on the Border Battle on KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXZY. Take it home, Marcel. I hope he's doing that for the Packers next year. I really do. People don't realize. People think I'm joking. I'm serious. I am honest to goodness. The Packers better take him in the 4th round. If you let him slide and he gets drafted after that, oh my goodness, I am going to be livid if the Packers don't end up with Marcel Aitman. I think he fits in the NFL. Real quick, Chris, yes or no, Mason Rudolph 1st round?
No.
No. Okay. Very easy. I think we could see it.
I think we could towards the end of the 1st round.
I think he could go as
Maybe.
high as 24. Whatever the first Patriots pick is.
27.
No,
Or no, it's 20.
It's like
22?
23, 20, 21, 22, 23, somewhere around there. Patriots drafting really high. By the way, if the Patriots really like someone, they could also trade up, pick. So
Which I don't see that happening though. That to me, that's not like a Patriots type of.
No, it's not usually a Patriots thing, but Bill Belichick is sick of Tom Brady, and he's sick of having to babysit. Speaking of a guy that's not acting his age, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
We knew Gronk never acted his age, but Tom Brady now is not acting his age very well either. So we're going to get some more NFL draft stuff. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, follow us on social media, facebook.com/Border Battle Show or twitter.com/Border Battle OSU. Chris, you had some more questions for me. You want to talk about the 1st round here?
Yeah, and I real quick, I just want to go back a little bit. I was looking earlier. I looked on NFL.com on Peter Schrager for his like mock draft thing. Right now, he actually has Rudolph to the Broncos in the 2nd round for pick 40, and then Washington to the Falcons in the 2nd round at pick 58.
That's a good spot.
And Marcel was not in the top 3. Obviously, there's the 4th round. But yeah, I want to ask, where do you think Shaquem Griffin's going to end up?
I think he should be picked in the 4th or 5th round.
Is there a team that you see him like going with that, or just kind of just
there
4th?
is not a team that late because I think there's going to be a lot of movement. There's always is a lot of movement later in the draft. So there's not a specific team. The guy is going to make a roster, and even if he is just a special teams guy, he is going to be one heck of a special teams player. So I think you're going to get a good player in the 5th round. Whether he turns out to be a team, someone that can actually contribute on your defense, I'm not really sure, but he might be able to.
All right, where do you see Lamar Jackson going?
Lamar Jackson's a top 15 pick.
Really?
Absolutely. You look at all the teams that need quarterbacks, there is no way he gets out of the top 15. And maybe I'll be eating crow on Sunday night. That could very well be, but
so then you rank
or
him
Friday,
high.
I mean.
You rank him higher than Mason Rudolph, like for you.
Not necessarily. I think he and Rudolph are 5A and 5B for me.
Okay.
It depends on what you like. Do you want a traditional pocket passer with like Mason Rudolph? Granted, you can argue about his pocket presence, not very good. Do you want that kind of player with a better arm, more accurate, or do you want Lamar Jackson, who gives you a dynamic player? He is better at throwing the ball than everyone gives him credit for. So I think it just comes down to who you like, right? So
All right. Now to get into some other questions. If
Sure.
you were, let's say, you're the Giants GM, do you pick Saquon Barkley at round 2 or a quarterback?
pick 2
Yeah, if you're
at number
at
2.
number 2,
I take a quarterback, but they're not going to.
you think they'll go
They're either
Saquon?
going to go Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb. That's who they're going with the 2nd pick. It's wrong. They should be building for the future, but you look at all the moves they've made over the course of this offseason,
Mhm.
everything points to them being ready for now, trying to win now, trying to get Eli one more Super Bowl win, which, by the way, would cement him. He's already a Hall of Fame quarterback simply because he's won 2 Super Bowls, but that would cement him, obviously cement his legacy even more. So I don't like it. I would go Josh Rosen if I were them, but they're going to go Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb.
Okay. Obviously, we know the Browns need to nail this draft. Who is your next team in line that needs to absolutely, just needs to nail their draft picks?
Okay, well, one thing is obviously this is selfish, but the Packers need to. The Packers have drafted all right over the past 5-6 years, but they really haven't gotten a game changer. And part of that is they're so successful. You're not going to get the game changers when you're really successful like the Packers are every year because you aren't drafting in positions. You're lucky. Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year because Aaron Rodgers even on that crappy team, would have carried them to 9 wins. And even if they don't make the playoffs, they're not drafting as high as they are right now. So, blessing in disguise of the Rodgers injury is you can get a game changer now. And who that's going to be, I'm not really sure. I think they do. Obviously, the Chicago Bears do. The Chicago Bears are a mess. And another team that really could use a good draft is the Indianapolis Colts. Now, you say, why are the Colts trading down then? They have so many holes to fill. And when Andrew Luck comes back, he's going to be able to mask some of it, like Aaron Rodgers does with the Packers, but not all of it. So I think the Colts are really smart right now to be trading and trying to get more draft picks.
All right. Who's going to go lower than they should?
Lower than they should. Well, I think if you talk about the rankings, the first one will be Saquon Barkley, because a lot of people think he's the best player in the class. He's not going to go number 1. If he doesn't get drafted 2, he could slide either to 4, he could slide down to 7, he could slide down to 9. Saquon Barkley is one of those players that could end up sliding further than he should. Another guy is Josh Rosen. If Baker Mayfield gets drafted at number 3 by the New York Jets, which is a distinct possibility, I don't know where he goes. I don't know if the Bills trade up for Josh Rosen, because I don't think he fits the Bills system. So I don't know where he slides to then. So I think that could be really interesting. If New York doesn't take him, who takes Josh Rosen?
Is it safe to say, or do you feel then if let's say, let's say the Broncos kept their 5 pick, they obviously don't need a running back. Do you see a team maybe just picking up Barkley and then trying to make a trade if let's say someone got someone they need that maybe wants Barkley, or do you think it's going to be, if the team's going to draft Barkley, they want him, they need him?
I think it's the latter. Here's my problem. If you're the Denver Broncos and you're sitting there at 5 and Saquon Barkley, Quentin Nelson are both on the board, you need Quentin Nelson more. So you don't draft Barkley with the hopes that someone will give you what you're asking for. You either get the value up front, aka you trade the pick, or you draft the guy that you want. And for the Broncos, I believe that would be Quentin Nelson in that scenario.
Okay, I do want to point out, I'm looking actually on ESPN here where some of these questions are coming up, and I think it's is it Kuiper? He has Nick Chubb, and the reason he has Nick Chubb falling or going lower is because of his injury history.
Yeah, and again, Nick Chubb probably he's probably would have been a top 2nd round pick. Nick Chubb would have been. He's a running back out of Georgia, and so not to be confused with Bradley Chubb, the top pass rusher in the 1st round. But Nick Chubb is an explosive runner. I'm not high on Nick Chubb. Kieran, who we had on the show on Sunday, he's high on Nick Chubb. He likes Nick Chubb a lot, and I'm not quite as high. His injuries scare me, right? So who knows where he goes? I think he will get drafted lower than maybe he should. But I'm a little skeptical of him.
If you're John Gruden, who are you looking for on?
Thank God I'm not.
Yeah, who are you looking for on day 1?
At number 10,
yes,
I hope Roquan Smith is there, but it looks like Roquan Smith's not going to be there. So what do you do then? Do you go secondary? Do you draft the kid out of Virginia Tech, Tremaine Edmonds? Do you draft him? He could be a guy that you draft because again. You got to start to rebuild some of this defense. The secondary probably isn't the biggest need for you right now. You still have Khalil Mack. So can you add to that linebacking core? Roquan Smith would be the obvious first pick for me. But if he isn't there, maybe a guy like Tremaine Edmonds.
Over under that 2.5 running backs get drafted in the 1st round.
In the first?
Yes.
2.5?
Well, because I can't say 2. I mean, because
it's
you can say
that.
2.
It's under that. Vegas line is actually at 1.5 right now. So it's either Saquon Barkley does another running back sneak into that. If you're thinking about taking that, I would never advocate sports gambling. I'm just saying if you would happen to do it, I think the running backs you're looking at are, will a team take Darius Geis in the 1st round, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, if he does get drafted kind of where everyone expected him to before his injury, will he get drafted in the 1st round? Those are kind of the names you're looking for at the end of the 1st round.
Who in your mind is the best deep threat of the class?
Deep threat? James Washington. I mean, James just because he's done it. And this isn't like I'm not super high on James Washington. I've told you guys that before, but this class isn't very good at wide receiver.
then I want to get your opinion because Kuiper said LSU's DJ Clark. And you
Chark?
Oh, sorry.
DJ Chark.
Chark read
Well,
it wrong.
He is the natural person to pick for this because he ran like
A 4.34.
Yeah, 4.3440, which is blazing speed. The thing is, and it's unfair for DJ Chark because he never had any good quarterbacks at LSU, but has he done it before? Really hasn't. I mean, he is a deep threat by trait, yes. But has he done what James Washington has done? No, he hasn't.
Okay, I guess kind of last one here. How many Oklahoma State Cowboys are getting drafted in all 7 rounds?
I will say, so if there, I would assume if Vegas was setting something on this, it'd be 4.5. You're going to, or sorry, 5.5. You're going to have the 3 offensive players for sure. Maybe 6. I could see 6. You got 6 offensive players that could get drafted in this draft.
So who would your 6 be?
So you got Mason Rudolph. You got your 3 wide receivers. Sorry, I think Chris Lacey could go in the 7th round. That'll be interesting to see if he gets drafted. Washington, Aitman, Lacey, plus Rudolph, and then 2 offensive linemen, Crabtree and Lumbley. Crabtree again going to be a late round pick. If he gets picked, it'll be in the 7th round.
So do you think it's safe to say Trey Flowers will probably be a undrafted?
Probably a camp invite, yeah.
Camp invite?
Undrafted free agent. I could see it happening, yeah. I think he could provide some value to you if you want to draft him in the 7th round, though. So I think that'll be an interesting thing. Was that it?
Yeah, that was
all of them.
just
We rattled through all of them. So I think if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you're going to be excited with what's going on here in this draft and excited about what's to come for your program. All right, we got to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday. Again, Friday, we're going to spend probably the first couple segments breaking down the draft. We'll have ticker topics, as always, preview a busy weekend coming up for Orange Sports. For CJ, for the great crew around here, I'm King. Thank you so much for listening to the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio, KXCY.
Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
Falling into this role, I kind of like it. Just any chance I get to throw for this team and go out there and help them out in any way possible. I love to do that for them.
Is it disappointing for this team to know that they could potentially, if given the opportunity, have success in March, but the thing is it's looking less and less like they're actually going to get there?
I mean, you're dealing with one, right now, the premier softball program in the nation in Oklahoma.
What?